Brighton against West Ham United on Saturday, which means it's time to catch up with a fan of the Seagulls to get their thoughts on the game. I'm pleased to be joined by Matthew. Matthew, thank you very much for joining me. And I want to say happy birthday.
Thank you
Giving up
very
time
much.
on your birthday to join me for 2 videos as well. So thank you. Can we start with how your season's gone as a Brighton fan?
Yeah, so it was a bit of a weird one, obviously, because obviously we had Europe last season. It's sort of the end of the season run was horrendous, sort of petered out with De Zerbi. It was probably time to go. And then there was a lot of talk about certain people coming back. And then, but Herzog got in, and we started really well. And then we had a really rough period around December sort of time. And then obviously we got beat 7-0 for Forest. Sort of everyone thought season over. And then we went on a 6-game winning streak. Then since the international break, we haven't won. And due to Leicester was a bit toxic in the away end at Brentford, it's sort of, you wouldn't think we're 1 point off Europe based on the fans' reaction. I just think that season where we came sixth and we had a big summer outlay has sort of made the expectations a lot higher. But I'm happy. I'm happy, but it has been a bit of a wet squid of a season, really.
So what was the expectations for some fans? Was it to be qualifying for the Europa League again?
Well, the club journalists came out and said that was the ambition, but I think people confuse the word ambition with expectation. So obviously, every year the ambition's Europe. Like now, we had a decent chance of getting it last year before the season petered out, but yeah, I think I wasn't expecting anything. It's a transition season with a 32-year-old. We've lost probably our best ever player in Pascal Gross. Obviously lost Caicedo, McAllister a few years ago. Like it's always going to be a transition season. And if someone offered me 10th before the season, a lot of Brighton fans, I think they'd take it. It's just how it's just gone from extreme high to extreme low. So just sort of, it's just been a bit, but again, as I said, normal. And with a 32-year-old manager, it's not going to be smooth sailing. He's a project manager.
What's your views on selling your, let's just call it selling your star player pretty much every summer? And I heard Barber speaking ahead of this summer that potentially Mitoma will leave or Baleba will leave. As a Brighton fan, do you accept it, or has your views changed that perhaps a couple of seasons ago you accepted it, but now you're in a position that says, hang on a minute, we need to stop doing this because we are now good enough to get European football. So what's your view on your club's transfer strategy, which still feels similar despite Brighton growing?
Yeah. I just think it's a fine line. Like, I've seen loads of debates about it, but no matter who the club is, if it's outside the big six, for example, it's very hard to keep your player when a big six team keeps coming. Like I can imagine you appreciate as a West Ham fan, you're a very big club outside the big six. Even if you had a good season, finished above United or someone, there's no stopping your key player going to United. It's just the way football is just a sort of short sighted and think, oh man, United. Even though clubs like us are probably better run and well, I wouldn't say better. We probably are better at the moment, like in the table. Like, but it's just the allure of big club. But I just think there's sometimes with like, for example, Caicedo, he signed him cheap, sold him really expensive. Don't mind someone like that going because you've got ready-made replacements. I just think it's a natural. It's just like the food cycle of football. It's annoying, and sometimes you want to see a bit more ambition. You don't want to see your CEO sort of parading your players and saying he said something about stocking the shelves or something like that. You don't want to see that, but say it's hard. You want to keep the best players. Like for me, like when Mitoma got offered in January, people saying he's going to leave. People like, oh, snap your hand off for 90 million. I never get that mentality because we don't see the money. The fans, it goes towards the club. I couldn't care how much money the club had. I want to see exciting players at my club, and that's what Matoma is and players like that. So it just depends really. Fine line between greed and acceptance, really. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. In terms of Conference League football, what's your view on the competition? Because I think context is important sometimes. So, how do you view the Conference League as a competition in itself?
Oh, I love it. Like when West Ham won it, I've got a lot of mates who are West Ham fans. So with the day out in London, we went to Box Park to watch it, and it was just like, obviously being a Brighton fan, I don't really want other teams in Europe to do well. I think it's just an English mentality thing. But it's different. Like when I was with all my mates who are West Ham fans, I wanted them to do well, and you could see the atmosphere. You could see what it meant. There was loads of people in tears around me, and that's a club like West Ham. So for any people to sort of turn their nose up at it, like it's ridiculous. I think it's a competition. It gives teams a chance to win. It's a bit annoying when teams like Chelsea are in it, obviously, but they were in it because they were awful last season. But yeah, just gives smaller teams, like you see the Swedish team Chelsea playing. you would never get that in any other competition. So yeah, I do really like it.
So now we know you want to finish 8th, just in case that's Conference League football. Do you think you will get 8th?
Yeah, I'd love to finish 8th. Like, again, I don't get why people don't want, because I go home and away, so I like going. I like going to all the trips. But yeah, 8th. Yeah, I would have said, if you asked me before the international break, I would have said probably top 7. But now the way it's gone, it's only 1 point in it. But I can't see it. I was saying I struggle to see us getting another win this season, the way we're playing and the injuries and stuff like that. So now I'm very pessimistic normally, but now I can't see it. I think we'll finish 10th, 11th. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, don't worry. West Ham are in town for you on Saturday. You couldn't ask for a better fixture, really, to get your European race back on track. In terms of Herzler, it's his first season, like you said, a very young manager. You happy with him?
Yeah, it's a weird sort of split in fan base as well. I think because everyone just De Zerbi's probably the most loved Brighton manager I've seen in my life in terms of got us Europe. He's really brought into the city the culture as like a proper Italian manager. And from then, I think anyone that came in wouldn't have stood a chance, because I think people writ him off from the start, and people are using their agenda to sort of be like, oh, I was right about him. But the same fans that say nothing when we win, if you know what I mean. And so after the 7-0 game against Forest, a lot of people were like, it's time to go. That was the final switch. Then obviously everyone turned back, and when we won 6, and now recently a lot of calls for Herzler out. Like I'm not Herzler out, and I haven't been. I don't think I will be until certain extreme. But same time, if he was to go tomorrow, I wouldn't be that arsed. But I'm not actively wanting him out. I'm way more in the in camp, but it's not like he hasn't won me over fully. But like I said, it's going to take time.
What's preventing him winning you over thus far? What's he done or not done?
There's nothing he's done wrong. I just think it takes time. Like I said, De Zerbi was an instant one. He's a sort of fan, this sort of, he's a bit of a nutter, and it did turn sour towards the end with him. But I just like it, like sort of manager. I just like it, giving passion, all of this. Like Herzler, he does sometimes, and he's good. And there just hasn't been. We haven't blown teams away. We've, like we did under Zerbi, but at the same time under Zerbi, we got battered a few times. So it's a fine line what you want as a manager. But there's just something that's not fully clicked yet. But again, it's not a complaint at him. We spent loads in the summer. He likes to play high line football, and we haven't signed a quick centre back. He's had most of his key signings injured all season. Like Rutter's probably been the only one that's been fit for ages. Now he's out. Like he's had a really tough time with injuries.
Yeah, right. Next season, then, what's your hopes and ambitions for Brighton? I appreciate it's hard to say because you don't know the outcome of the European football. So I imagine if you were in the Conference League, your ambition will to be going and win it next season. But that aside, in terms of the domestic campaign or with the manager or with certain players, what's your hopes?
Well, obviously Europe, but it's tough because obviously you've got the big 6 plus Villa and Newcastle. So it's like, it's not slowly becoming a big 8, but it's very hard. You need teams like United and Tottenham to have a season like this to have a chance of Europe basically in the future. So it's very tough. You've just got to be ready to step up when a team like United or Tottenham slip up. Is probably why the frustrations for a lot of fans, because Europe could be in our hands. Like right here, we got the experience over Bournemouth and Fulham recently. But yeah, that is the aim. Just got to hope we have a big summer. We need a few. Our squad is pretty well set when everyone's back fit. We only really need, unless we lose anyone, we only really need a centre back and probably a backup at fullback, and then we're set. So we're in a strong position for next year. It's just whether that translates to results.
Yeah, I think as a neutral, I find Brighton a hard club to work out. And I don't mean as in the infrastructure. I mean as a team under Herzler. There's been some games I've watched where I struggled to see what he's doing in terms of tactics, and it feels a little bit like you're relying on individual star quality. And you do have that with Pedro, with Baleba. You've got some really top players there. But there's other games I've watched. You play some really good football, and it's thoroughly enjoyable to watch a neutral, and you win. But then the following week, you're back to what it was previously, and I found it. Herzler is possibly the manager I've struggled to work out the most this season a little bit. I can't tell if I like him or not as a manager. Some games I do, and some games I think, nah, he should be doing better, because I think you've got a lot of really good players, and he has been unlucky with injury. I think O'Reilly's someone that I was jealous of Brighton signing. I thought, and then he got injured immediately, and then he's been out and he's just come back now. And I think if you can get those players fit, you'll have a really good squad. I think you've got one of the strongest squads in the Premier League. And I often throw in a disclaimer outside the top six, but I don't know why I do that. I'm not doing it in this case. I think Brighton have a better squad than Man United. I
Yeah.
genuinely do. I'd rather have your squad than Man United. I look at Spurs. I think, do you know what? I probably prefer Brighton squad over Man United as well. And I think I think the success of Nottingham Forest at the minute makes it difficult for teams away from there because you're looking at a club and you have this. Well, why can't we do that? If they're doing it, they're going to get Champions League football. Why can't we do that? And I think it strikes fear into you as to what Nottingham Forest can do off the back of this season. Well, they get all this cash going in, they become an attractive proposition. Can they navigate the summer transfer window well and go on and establish themselves as a top 10 team in the Premier League? And like you said, it becomes one less place available. So I think Nottingham Forest makes an okay season look like a bad season for Brighton and a bad season. No, it's a terrible season for West Ham, regardless of Nottingham Forest. Speaking of West Ham, what's your thoughts on us?
I'm not just saying this. I've got a bet with one of my best mates, a West Ham fan, to prove it. He was very adamant that you had a really good transfer window in the summer, and I'm not just saying this now because of how it's however it's happened. I just wasn't that impressed with the window. Like, even when it happened, I was like, I think it's getting slightly overrated. And I think, like I said, you're one of the biggest clubs out of the Big Six. You've got really good potential, but something's not right, like off the field, obviously, with moving grounds. It just doesn't seem a happy place right now. Like, it's a really weird club to figure out. I look at your starting lineup, I'm like, all that money, who's like playing well? Bowen, who you signed years ago. Wan-Bissaka's been good. Obviously, I don't watch as much as you, but other than that, I've not been that moved by players. Like Paqueta's been inconsistent. I just couldn't understand the transfer strategy. A lot of older players were signed rather than, I think what we did, sign loads of. We did a huge outlay, but it was a very young outlay, like a lot of 19 to 24-year-olds. I think you just signed a lot of. Yeah, it was just a weird window, just a weird club at the moment. It must feel the same to support them.
So does this season, how we are performing at the minute? Now, for those listening, I appreciate you probably thinking, hang on, Gio, you got a Brighton fan, you're asking about Potter. We're going to do a video separate specifically about Graham Potter's time at Brighton and how Matthew thinks Potter will do at West Ham. So that's why I'm not going into too much detail on. It's a bit like the elephant in the room. We are addressing it just elsewhere. So does this season that we're having, does it surprise you? Because obviously you don't rate our squad too highly. So are you thinking, yeah, that's what I thought? Or is there still an element of surprise, which is, my God, this is worse than what I anticipated? And I didn't even think that much of it.
Sort of, a lot of people backed you, I think, for European underdogs, and I wasn't that keen on it. Like I said, like when I was chatting with my mate, I didn't think you'd be this bad, but I didn't think you'd be as good as. I just thought you'd be sort of 12th, like 11th to 13th,
Yeah,
sort of
so did I.
upper mid-table, and that's what I thought. I thought, like I said, I didn't expect Forest to do as well, but I thought Big Six, Newcastle, Villa, then there's us, Bournemouth, Brentford, sort of on the up. So I thought you'd just fall just behind that. So yeah, I'm very surprised how low you are. But then again, yeah, the squad hasn't turned out to be what people thought it would be.
Turning our attentions to Saturday afternoon, then, how do you see this game going?
Oh, I'm dreading it. Like, I just think it's written in the stars for you to win. We struggle against the team struggling. Like we drew with Leicester home and away. Last team to concede at King Power. Last team to concede at home to Leicester. So we drew at home to Wolves when they were struggling. Drew at home to Ipswich. Drew at home to Southampton. Gave Brentford their first home win in 8. We're the team to play. We could win 10 games in a row, but if a team's needs a result, we just give it to them. So I just think the way it's going at Brighton, the atmosphere is going to be awful again on Saturday. It's the return of Potter, obviously we'll get into it later, but not the most popular bloke at Brighton. So it just screams of a game where we have the chances and we just don't take them. And I can just see Bowen counter-attack, 88th minute, West Ham 1-0. Wouldn't surprise me in the slightest.
I mean, I wouldn't complain, but I don't share your pessimism as far as you're concerned, but optimism for me. I normally when I do this, when the other fan gives me reasons as to why he thinks his team's going to lose on the weekend, why West Ham will get a result. Sometimes it gives me a little bit of hope as I listen to him. I think, actually, you know what? Yeah, and don't disagree with anything he's saying here. And I actually feel better. Now, what you're saying should give me hope. It ain't working. I'm still not any more optimistic of getting a win than I was before you started speaking. If anything, you made me even more confident it's going to finish in a draw, because all the stats you reeled off there was draw, 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 draw. And speaking of Leicester City, you know, we gave Van Nistelrooy his first win as Leicester manager. They smashed us 3-1 at their place. So yeah, we're not great either when as I always say, against teams at the bottom, but we're also not great against teams in the middle or the top either. But with all that said and done, Matthew, before I get your score prediction, I just want to tell people, if you want to follow Matthew, you can do. I'm going to put a link to his social media platforms in the description below. And you might think, oh, Brighton fan, not for me. But if you like a gamble, I am personally vouching for Matthew. He's won me a bit of money over the years following some of his bets on social media. So the links are in the description below. Go check it out. And Matthew, with all said and done, can I get your score prediction ahead of Saturday, please?
Yeah, I'll say 1-1.
Ooh, interesting. That's my score prediction as well. So there you go. Both of us are thinking 1-1. We both like a bet and we're both going for 1-1. What could go wrong? But if you fancy checking out that video that we've done about Graham Potter, the link's in the description below in the pinned comments, and it'll be on your end slate in a few seconds' time. But Matthew, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you. Pleasure.
And if you guys at home have enjoyed this video, please do drop a like on it by clicking thumbs up before you disappear. Subscribe to Thomas Chat, and we'll catch you in a bit.